All right, let's talk about a huge shift in how we think about professional value. We're going to break down why the way you actually act, your behavior, is a much, much better predictor of your success than anything you can list on a resume. Okay, let's get into it. So let's start with the question that honestly causes a ton of frustration for just about everyone. Why do resumes so often miss the mark? We've all seen it happen, right? A candidate looks perfect on paper, just an amazing resume, but then they struggle in the actual role. Or you have a brilliant colleague whose real value is completely invisible on a document. It's this gap, this disconnect between credentials and real-world impact that we're going to tackle. The problem is that resumes have this massive blind spot. They're really just artifacts of the past. They show us what someone has done, the job titles, the tasks, the degrees, but they hide the most critical information, how they did it. A piece of paper can't show you someone's judgment when things get tough, their ability to pivot, or how they actually influence a team to get things done. So to actually see what matters, we need a new lens. We need a whole new way of looking. Instead of getting stuck on these static credentials from the past, we have to shift our focus to dynamic action, to what we can actually observe, which is behavior. And this brings us to a really core idea: behavioral intelligence. Now, this isn't about your personality or some kind of innate talent. It's much more practical. It's a structured way to see the consistent patterns in how somebody operates. How they make decisions, how they work with other people, and how they react when things get complicated. It's all about the how, not just the what. And look, this isn't just a nice theory. It's grounded in a rock-solid principle of organizational psychology. The single best predictor of what someone will do in the future is what they've done in a similar situation in the past. It's that simple. What someone has actually done is way more telling than what they say they would do. And today, in these super collaborative workplaces, those interpersonal skills, the ones you can only see through behavior, are often the real difference maker. Okay, so if behavior holds all this hidden value, how do we make it visible? Well, it turns out there's a really clear and powerful mechanism for this. Let's walk through the mechanics of what we can call the identity to signal chain. It's a really logical sequence. First, you've got your identity, your core professional self, how you see the world, and that shapes your actions. Second, that behavior, the stuff you do under real pressure, creates your experience. Third, those experiences, when you learn to talk about them, become structured stories. And finally, those stories send out these crystal clear signals that let other people see your judgment and what you're truly capable of. Now, here's what I think is so powerful about this. This whole process, it's not about self-promotion, it's not about selling yourself or bragging. It's about self-translation. It's the disciplined act of making your internal operating system, how you think, how you decide, actually understandable to the outside world. So what's the vehicle for that translation? It's stories. Stories are the one tool we have to take these abstract patterns of behavior and make them concrete, make them tangible, and make them something other people can actually interpret. Why? Because a structured story is really the only way to show behavior in motion. Think about it. A list of skills is just flat. It's static. But a story gives you this dynamic, high-definition view of someone's judgment, their priorities, and their thought process as they navigate a real challenge. And a good story is just packed with data. It doesn't just tell you what happened. It shows you how that person saw the situation, how much ownership they took, what choices they decided to prioritize, the judgment behind those choices, and maybe most importantly, what they actually learned from the whole thing. To make all this a bit more manageable, we can actually organize these behaviors into a kind of universal taxonomy. Just think of it as four main categories. First, interpersonal dynamics. That's all about how we collaborate and handle conflict. Second, leadership and presence, how we guide and inspire. Third, cognition and execution, our approach to thinking strategically and just getting stuff done. And finally, navigational acumen. That's about how we understand and operate inside a complex organization. Together, they give us a pretty complete map of someone's professional behavior. So, let's bring it all together. What does this mean for the future? Why is this behavioral approach so incredibly important right now, not just for your own career, but for any organization you're a part of? This quote really just nails it. As more and more routine tasks get automated, it's the uniquely human skills, judgment, collaboration, adaptation that become everything. Understanding how a person operates isn't just a nice to have anymore. It's becoming the absolute foundation of their value. And the real-world applications here are huge. For hiring, it means you can finally move past the resume and actually predict performance. For developing leaders, it helps you spot and grow people with real potential. For teams, it gives everyone a shared language to talk about what's working and what's not, which helps resolve friction. And yeah, as AI gets more powerful, focusing on these human behaviors is exactly how we secure our unique value. So the main takeaway, the one thing I really hope you get from this, is the need for this fundamental mindset shift. We have to move from a credential-first mindset that's always looking backward to a behavior-first mindset that gives us real evidence of what someone can do in the future. And that brings me to the final thought I want to leave you with. It's a question for you to reflect on, for leaders to ask their teams, and really for anyone thinking about their career. What story is your behavior telling? Because in the end, that's the only story that really, truly matters.